Hi, today we're going to talk about population, samples, and biasness. This is something that you want to write down in your math notebook. A population is an entire people group, and a sample is a part of that population. Now, you're going to be able to think of a million different examples of population and sample, but just to get you thinking on the right track, here are four. So residents of North Carolina could be the population, and a sample of that could be residents of Wake Forest. All quarters in circulation, and we could take a small sample of 150 quarters. Families with children, our sample could be families with one child. Our population could be the entire U.S. citizens of voting age, and a sample could be those who voted in the presidential election. Now, again, our population and sample are going to vary based on whatever our experiment or survey is that we're conducting, but here are just a few examples. Now, when a population is really large, it's difficult or impractical to collect data from an entire population. In that case, a survey can be used to collect data. Now, when we collect that survey, we have to be very careful of bias. Bias is in favor, for, or against, prejudice, an inclination towards, or only one point of view. So this is a really great picture to show you what it means to be biased. In the population, we have a large number of red circles and a small number of green circles. Now, if you create a biased survey, then you might pull more of one, in this case, it's more greens than there are reds, because we didn't create an accurate representation of our population because our sample was not random and adequate enough. So to avoid bias, we want to keep our sampling random, representative, and adequate. And your sample is created strictly by chance. If a sample meets this criteria, then you could say that this would create an accurate representation. So again, it needs to be random, representative, and adequate. Please pause this video to read through or copy down this chart in your notes. Now, an example. So the principal of Heritage Middle School wants to have an end of the year party. There will be games, gifts, and food. In order to determine if people will actually come and buy tickets, the principal decided to conduct a survey. There are 1,000 people and there will be 50 people in the survey. So which of the following will be considered an unbiased way to conduct the survey? Now there are 6, and each example will pop up, and I want you to pause the video and think on your own. Would this be considered biased or unbiased? And if it's unbiased, then it's an appropriate way to conduct the survey. But if it's biased, then it is not an appropriate way to conduct the survey. So the first example is every 10th person off the school bus. Again, pause the video and think of your response. This would be considered a biased way to conduct the survey because we're only surveying people off the bus. So therefore, you're only getting bus riders' point of view and not people who are driven to school in carpool. The drama teacher surveys the students in drama class. Please pause the video and think about it. This would also be considered biased because we're just getting the drama class's point of view, and it is not representative of the whole school. Next is the principal makes an announcement for people interested to come to the library after school. This would be considered biased because we're only looking at volunteers here. Not every person in the school has a fair chance because some people might need to rush off to carpool, or they have a club, or a meeting with a teacher, and so this would only be volunteers' point of view. The counselor selects every 20th student on the school roster. This is unbiased because every child in the whole school has a fair chance. Every second period teacher pulls out a name out of a hat for one student in their second period. Well, every person in school has a second period class, so this would also be considered unbiased because every student in the whole school has a fair chance. And assuming there's no smart lunch, every 10th student that walks into the cafeteria for lunch, this would also be unbiased. Now, it would be biased if there was smart lunch because some kids would go straight to their teacher's classroom to go over questions or finish a test. And so not every student would walk into the cafeteria. So not every student would have a fair chance.